The Kid, the Odd Figure, and the Murder of Crows. The Kid was sitting behind a tree stump. He was just short enough that if anyone were to stand on the other side of the stump, they wouldn't see him. He was constantly straightening up and peeking over the rotting wood at the Odd Figure. The Odd Figure was sitting in the grass, legs crossed, playing with a knife in their hands. Dressed in several layers of clothing and a mask, it was impossible to see any defining traits. The Odd Figure was surrounded by a murder of crows. The murder of crows flocked around the Odd Figure, pecking at the ground around them, cawing, flapping, perching. One hopped over to the Odd Figure, jumped onto their arm, and tried to peck underneath their mask, at their right eye. None of the birds noticed the Kid. The Kid watched, as he had watched for about half an hour, curious. Who was that Odd Figure? Why did they wear a mask? Why were there so many crows? Could he play with the crows too? He had always thought that crows are mean, but those crows looked friendly towards the Odd Figure. The Odd Figure looked up. They thought they had heard a noise, like crumpling leaves. From where? From behind? They turned and looked towards a particularly large stump behind them. From there? They shooed away the crow that was pecking under their mask at their eye. The crow flapped its wings, hopped back a step, and cawed loudly. The murder of crows stirred. The group seemed anxious. Something was wrong here. Something was off. What was wrong? What was off? They turned towards the Odd Figure. Maybe they would know. The crow, so keen on pecking the Odd Figure's eye, cawed loudly again. It sounded agitated. It flapped its large wings once more and jumped into the air. It pecked again, but this time it pecked at the mask, seizing it in its beak. The other crows cawed and flapped their wings. One of them turned to look at the Kid behind the stump. The Kid ducked down for cover. He didn't want to be caught. He hoped the person and the crows were friendly, but what if they weren't? He straightened up again and peered towards them. He gasped at the crows and the Odd Figure. The Odd Figure swiped a hand at the crow, but to no avail. The crow had grasped the mask in its beak and had pulled it down. The Odd Figure's eyes were revealed. The Odd Figure dropped the knife they had been playing with on the grass and took their mask off. Sounding as if it were laughing, the crow cawed. The murder of crows seemed to grow excited. The mischievous mask-grabbing crow flew up and pecked at the Odd Figure's right eye. Its sharp beak did nothing to damage the Odd Figure's right eye, as they no longer had a right eye. The socket was empty, caked with blood, and tusk-like bones were emerging through the socket, embedded in the flesh. The crow jabbed at one of the bones, and then attempted to peck at the other eye. There still was another eye, but it was solid black, like a black pearl, but with a pinpoint of gray-green in the center. The Odd Figure swiped at the playful crow, managing to brush it away before it pecked out their one good eye. The Odd Figure smirked. There were scars around their mouth, leading all the way down the sides of their neck onto their chest in a long, makeshift frown. There was a scream. The Odd Figure and the crows looked towards the Kid. The Kid had stood up and had shrieked again, realizing that the Odd Figure was not human. The Kid didn't care about the crows anymore. He wanted to go home. He turned and he ran, not taking another look at the Odd Figure. The Odd Figure took a hold of their knife and stood up, letting their mask hang around their neck, not bothering to put it back on. The Odd Figure was irritated. They didn't like to be watched, but it was fortunate for them too. For them and the murder of crows. The murder of crows cawed angrily, many of them rising into the air as the Odd Figure rose to their feet. They looked towards the Odd Figure and flew into the woods as the Odd Figure began walking towards where the Kid had run. The Kid ran as fast as he could, scraping and scarring his arms and legs as he ran past branches and thistles. He could hear the crows flapping and cawing. He took a moment to look behind his shoulder and tripped. He tried to get back to his feet quickly, but in the corner of his eye he saw someone approaching with a knife. He noticed that the odd figure's knife was a hunting knife. The odd figure played with the knife in their right hand. The movements of the knife were faster now. The odd figure's one good eye showed no change, yet somehow gave off the aura of being angry. On their other hand, a crow was perched, cawing. It was the mischievous crow. The murder of crows flew after the kid, reaching him quickly. All of them tried to peck at the kid, except for the mischievous crow, who tried to peck at the odd figure's eye again. The odd figure sent the crow away with a sweep of their arm after the kid. The kid cried out for help, but no help could hear. The crows jabbed and pecked at him. Some even used their sharp black talons to scrape and scratch. The kid was trapped in a mass of small ebony black bodies, but he saw the odd figure through the wings and feathers. The odd figure watched for a minute, but then grew bored with the scene. They shooed away the crows with a few wide motions of their arms, and then walked towards the kid, the knife aimed and ready, the murder of crows cawed, as if cheering. The murder of crows perched around the odd figure. They knew not to bother them as they did their work. They knew that if they were patient, they would get their reward. They cawed, encouraging quick work. They cawed at the odd figure and the kid. The kid was with the crows. The crows were no longer angry at him. In fact, the crows were happy he was there. He was the center of the group. They surrounded the kid and the odd figure who was sitting in the grass, legs crossed, playing with a knife in their hands. The odd figure had replaced the mask upon their face, but they were smiling behind it now. Their forearms bore some red stains, but they didn't care. They liked to see their friends happy. The murder of crows. The murder of crows jabbed and pecked at the center of the group. The lucky ones who were closest managed to get a beak full of flesh and stripped off a piece, only to be shoved aside by other hungry birds. Crows cawed and perched upon the odd figure who had brought them yet another satisfying meal. Now there was peace between the three. They were back where they had started. The kid, the odd figure, and the murder of crows.